All right, guys. So today's podcast, we are coming to you with Jeremy and Juan of Fasterproms. Jeremy has all the tuning knowledge trapped away in his beard. We'll see if we can extract some of it today. We'll leave the golden retriever hair because I have enough of that at home. Jeremy, what is a prom, and why is yours faster than ours?
Funny you should ask that, Coop.
I've been explained what a prom is, and I genuinely still wouldn't be able to explain it well to others.
Okay. So it's a super archaic name. Let's
Talking to the mic, bud.
Sorry. Yep.
Talking to the dead cat.
The dead cat. All right. Well, so
Matches
prom
your beard.
is an old name for a chip, but prom stands for programmable read-only memory, and that was another synonymous name with a chip. And at the time when we made the corporation, it was Fast Chips was already taken, so Fasterproms was what my mom picked after my father passed away. And my dad had run the business for like 14, 15 years or something at that point. So that was in the year 2000. And so since 2000, me as an 18-year-old was out programming cars. And here I am, 41 years old now.
Still programming
Still
cars.
programming cars.
Have the cars gotten more exciting?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
I would guess. So it's also a good thing that that name was already taken. What was it?
Fast chips. Yeah.
Fast Chips?
Fast chips.
I don't think that one would have lasted the test of time as much as Faster Proms.
Yeah, it's a weird name. It's not, I don't know. I used to hate it, and now I'm kind of like,
I think it works.
It
pretty
works-ish, I guess, yeah, but I'll take it.
well. Yeah. So you started racing and tuning with your dad, who is very accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely, so the throwback there is, my dad had, we should go way back. So
Yeah, take us back.
yeah, let's go way back.
got plenty of
so,
time.
Yeah, I mean, this is way
Probably
before
news
my
for
time.
Juan, too.
Yeah, so-
I even got to the museum and saw the little.
Oh yeah.
plaque there.
My dad had a car that was at the National Corvette Museum, and the center thing or whatever was a car that we built for somebody. That was pretty neat. But there's been a couple cars that were actually up there, but that's neither here nor there. But like my dad was like, at one point in his life, he was doing some shady stuff as far as like living fast. Let's say shady. Let's say living fast, like playing pool and drag racing for a living.
Nice.
I mean that's.
Yeah. And I've kind of outed some of my family that's no longer with us for their criminal activity already, but they're not here anymore, so they can't get, you can't arrest them. So it's like, might as well speak up.
So, in that time frame, my dad was racing and had, a crazy head and cam package. He did a lot of intake manifold experimentation and so on and so forth.
And that would be on what car? Or
Almost
cars?
always Corvettes. He did have a car called a Bow car, and he did have
C4 Corvettes?
Well, not in the 60s.
Oh, so he was like, we're talking
60s.
like C3,
C2
Corvettes.
Yeah. So,
wow.
In 63, my dad had a 60-something Corvette towing a 62 Corvette to the drag races, in Gandy Bridge,
Yeah.
which is like a famous drag racing bridge. So my dad got arrested on the Gandy Bridge, and lo and behold, I got arrested on the Gandy Bridge drag racing on a Saturday night, just being an idiot. But yeah, sins of the father.
Yeah, I've been also I've been on the Gandy Bridge
You know what?
racing.
I'm going to out you right now because you and I have raced on the Gandy Bridge.
We have.
Yeah.
But I
Which
think
actually with this car right here.
I think when we did it though, like if a cop saw you, you'd probably just like, I think that's some regular traffic.
Yeah.
It was a Miata and a slow ass CTSV.
Oh man. Yeah.
We were banging gears, but from a distance, it probably just looked like.
Oh man, that was loud. That was fun. We had a good time and all that.
Yeah, that was good. I definitely lost, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And I was a supercharged CTSV. You were NA Miata.
That is what it is. But
The weight difference really got me.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, that was fun. We should race something again.
But back to that. So my dad was always doing experimentation on cars, learning what made more power and so on and so forth. So I got some super old photographs of like a top picture of the engine, like a stock, 60-something Corvette, and then, an after. So it was before and after, and it had like the single carburetor, and then he had like a dual high-rise carburetor, and they went from stock exhaust manifolds to headers. And he eventually, so this drag strip that's right behind us, this used to be a quarter-mile track, so he was actually the first in the 11s, 10s, and 9s with a Corvette way back then. And when you consider a 9-second car in the 60s, that's insane. Like a 10-second car is crazy. And I remember one time, you know, we were at like some sort of event, and Don Garlitz was there, and my dad walked up and he was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then Don's like, "Hey, what's going on, Jim?" And, you know, it was like they knew each other from racing way back, and Don used to race on the street and even here back in the 60s.
That's
so it was
awesome.
a really funny little, you know, small world of all, you know, it's just, that's kind of where I came from. So I don't know. I mean, it's that's what kind of brought me to that. When the C4 came out, my dad was infatuated with fuel injection because he's like, that's the thing of the future.
And that's pretty crazy in itself, because somebody that was carb tuning and you know, working on carburetor cars and stuff like that, to then think like, oh, this is the next thing, because normally it's like the next generation that gets into that. Like,
Yeah.
like he would have been anti fuel injection, and you would have been like, no, like this is the
Yeah,
cool stuff. But
yeah.
it's crazy that he was already like,
Yeah, my dad
right
always
into
had
that.
a forthright view of, I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but he always had foreseen stuff of the future, you know. And like when computers first came out, we had computers before I knew anybody had a computer, and then again that also further led to doing all that stuff. It's just weird stuff that I wasn't used to, and my dad was always into tech. You know, so after that he installed satellite dishes, so he was always really tech savvy and all that. But that's kind of again where I came from is when in 1985, you know, my dad got a pull-out engine from an 85 Corvette, so the TPI, and it's a 245 horsepower engine and all that. And so he went out, and I remember the day he bought a 1982 S10. So we brought an S10 back, and my dad's like engine swapping it in late 1985. He put the TPI in it, and the truck went slower. And he was just like, okay, what the hell? And that's really what kind of started doing what I'm doing. So he got into that. He had early diagnosis stuff. I mean, we had the most archaic looking, just bizarre stuff for data logging. And then he learned the lingo, and he had a connection up in Detroit, and he started getting books from GM and then hacking the computer and stuff. And so 1985, 86, he started hacking the GM ECM and learning what it's all about. And then he started putting heads and cam on it, modifying, helping it breathe better, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's pretty much what started this.
So where were you getting a cam in the 80s for a 1985 car that basically just, like an engine that kind of just came out?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a small block. It's still a small block.
It was all kind of the same.
It's basically, it was still a small block. They just put EFI on top. So it still had a distributor.
Makes sense.
And then instead of doing just your timing and such, they had an ESC, which is a electronic spark control module. So that was connected to the distributor, and you would disconnect that to set the base timing. And then when you plugged it back in, the timing curve would take over. So that's kind of...
That's pretty weird. Yeah, that's definitely
weird stuff.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, the early tuning on like an EFI cars are always so different than what we think about now when you plug a laptop in and you see everything like real time.
Yeah, I mean, like what you just said, when we first started here, it's like, dude, I just pulled a car off the dyno, made 798 wheel horsepower, and it's a new C7 Z06. I say new, but you know, it's newish,
yeah.
You know, and it's still going to have excellent drivability. We're not even leaning on it that hard. Did you think back in the 90s that was even possible, or even 2000? 800 wheel horsepower out of like basically a luxury sports car? Hell no. I didn't think that was, you know, like that. And now there's even better. I mean, we could have leaned on that more and more power,
well, you go buy something like that off the lot almost.
Yeah,
Like
that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's really pretty wild.
Some of these Mustangs from like these outside tuning companies and stuff, like they're sold at dealerships with 800 horsepower, and you're talking about a motor, what, 40?
I mean,
35 years ago that made 250.
Now,
was a hot rod motor.
I mean, if I was Hennessy, you would have called that like 1,000 horsepower, you know, whatever.
You can call it 1,000. We didn't see.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like 800 wheel. You know,
like an honest 800 wheel horsepower.
800 wheel. There's not many cars that come with 800 wheel. I mean,
See,
there's
I'm a track guy, and mile an hour will
Right.
always be. You can tell me any dyno number, but mile an hour will always tell the
Yeah.
tale. No matter how heavy the car is, it's pretty much right across
Yeah.
the board.
Well, realistically, if someone drove that car well in decent weather, it would probably trap like 147. Like I trapped 147 with about that power.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear
And
that
that was not a
story.
good driving. I didn't drive that well.
It was a stick shift car too.
Yeah, it was.
So we
just-
should go back to that story because that was like kind of when you were at like that was one of your like big breakthroughs. I feel like
Oh yeah.
your
It was-
your white Z06 stick shift car.
Okay.
That was like I don't want to say put you on the map a little bit, but like it definitely kind of in the new age when people were struggling with the
Yeah.
direct injection stuff.
Yeah, it's a feather in the cap, I guess you could say, but it was that
It
was
was
kind of
great for the time.
Yeah, that was kind of when I met you guys. Yeah, that was so the C7Z06 when it first came out. That was tough. Like, well, let's rewind real quick here. So I had a C7. We did some amazing stuff with the C7. Like we did heads and cam, and it made 550. That's awesome power for NA for 6.2. So that 6.2 was making what a 7.0 was making at the time. That's outstanding. And then we threw a blower on it, and this is actually, this is FL2K14 now that I think about this. I was actually just reminiscent about this the other night with somebody else, so this is a really, really fond memory. Threw a supercharger on that, made 700 wheel. I was on 93 octane, only had like 6 or 7 pounds of boost. I went out on FL2K14 with that car, and freaking just ran everything, and I think I lost once.
And when you say FL2K, you don't mean that you were actually at Bradenton Motorsports Park.
I was street racing at FL2K, had the best time, one of the top memories I've ever had.
Yes.
We ran 4 wide on I-75, and I don't know. I raced so many cars,
Yeah.
bikes, GTRs, you name it. There was nothing, and then that car went 10.2 at 141, and I was the second fastest. So it went 10.27 at 141, and I was like
Stick
this
shift.
close, yeah. So it was like the third fastest C7 at the time, and the record was 10.23 for the fastest stick shift, and I nicked the rev limiter on the 2.3 shift, so that was like, that was it. So anyway, that car had to get demodded, sold, because I was getting a C7Z06. I got that car almost exactly now, but I don't know, 6 years ago or whatever, 7 years ago.
We got something loud coming.
Something nasty.
Yeah. Definitely very choppy. I mean, we could keep talking. That's normal around these parts. It probably won't pick up that much on the mic.
But so yeah, in 2015.
Just hold it closer to you.
Oh yeah, so so that would have been winter, December, right before Christmas, 2015 Z06.
Yeah.
And there was no parts out for it, so we took the C7 parts, made stuff work. We ported the supercharger. It never touched one before. Made a coolant tank for it, made a flex fuel for it. The only parts that we didn't make were the headers. And so at the time, I got that car to make like 660 wheel or something like that, and maybe 700 pound-feet of torque. And so that was just bolt-ons, and we can make more power now, knowing what we know now. But I struggled and struggled and struggled with tuning it, and I just got my butt kicked so bad. I was so frustrated, but I just kept trying.
It's
and
a
kept going.
rotary, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, guys. We have a rotary by us. I don't know how loud it is, but it'll probably blow up in a second. So we'll be good.
Usually to my ear, though.
If you give it a minute, I'm sure he'll blow it up.
It's just inevitable.
It's just what happens. So
But-
you were getting beat up by the direct injection
Yeah,
stuff
and I was
because-
even the 2014 that I did really good with and learning on, the 2015 with the OEM controls for the supercharger and making all that torque, I was just getting my ass kicked, like bad. And I was so frustrated, but I kept trucking with it, and I had this breakthrough idea on how to make it think that it has less torque and whatever. And then the car started going faster and faster, and it was like I went, first time out, I think I went 10.6s, and then I went 10.30s, a little bit better, and then I did something else, and then had a nice break in the weather, and I think I had just a little bit more tweaking on E85 just right, and I got the car to go 986 at like 138, and at the time, it was the first Z06 ever in the nines, first first manual, and that held for a long time, and with bolt-ons. And it was like 7 weeks from the time that I received the car. And there's no mods even out for the car. So it was such a big deal at the time. People were like, never even seen the car. And it's like, we just went 9s with it, with bolt-ons. Didn't even get into the engine. And there was other guys out there that had done heads and cam on it, like Vengeance and stuff. And they were making big power, but we got to it first, and we still went faster. So I was really, really pleased with that. But that's what we do is we make the most. And I mean, we're looking at a C7 Z06 right now behind
two
me.
of them.
Yeah, and there's one right there too, one right there.
Yeah.
And there's another one outside. Yeah.
Yeah, it is like the car though. Like for the
It's a nice
price
car.
point and stuff,
It's a nice
it's
car.
really hard to compete with
Yeah.
a C7 Z06.
The torque is just
Like I like
absolutely-
ZR1s better, like C6
Yeah.
ZR1s.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
man, like the fit and finish and everything is miles ahead on these cars than like a C6.
That's actually where I met Jeremy.
Yeah.
He came by the shop and at Orlando, and he brought this Corvette, and I was just so like wild about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my God, it's perfect weather. I gotta go. And he's like, "I just gotta go. It's just like, I was like, all right. Well, it's just like you don't understand. It's like perfect weather." And it's just like, okay. And then you went into Orlando, and you're like showing me the times. I was like, "Oh, that's."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's great." I was like, "I'm just a drifter here." So he was like,
That's like the only time I think I've ever gone out of town on a work schedule and dumped work to go.
"Yeah." He was
To
like,
go
"I'm
race.
sorry."
race.
He's like,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry, guys, but I just gotta go." I was like, "The
Yeah,
weather's
it's like
perfect."
you gotta, I gotta make that money. I
Yeah.
gotta make the money for the day and all
Yeah.
that. And that's the only time I think I can ever remember, and ever doing that. It's always like work
That's
always
my
comes
fun
first.
memory.
Yeah.
Is there normally rotaries here?
No.
No.
There's no really not any
Just the
rotaries,
one
yeah.
time I come.
It's just don't
And he just lets it idle out there. It's a bad deal. I'm sorry, podcasters, if it's really bad. I don't fully know.
Yeah, I can
For the
keep
two
going.
rotary fans, they're digging it, I'm sure.
Maybe some people will enjoy it. I'm just kidding. I was gonna listen if we could hear it through the mics, but
I can
it is
close
what
the
it
door
is.
if you want me to.
Nah, it's probably okay. These are pretty good at picking up, but we'll know soon enough. But so with the tuning, the weird part, because you obviously had a ton of CTSV tuning under your belt at that point, which are arguably pretty similar with torque and the way that they make power.
Yeah.
Did they change something major ECU wise or like GM, the way that they were kind of going about it? You're saying torque, is it something with the torque management stuff?
Yeah. So the C7 and after, so basically let's just go from Gen 4 to Gen 5. And if you guys aren't familiar with what that is, so like basically Gen 3 phased out like 04. So 9704 is like Gen 3 LS1. Gen 4 is pretty much starts 04, 05, really like 05 with the E40 processor, goes through pretty much 2014. And that is a golden age for, you can make a lot of power, excellent engine management, you can control, the transmission controls came leaps and bounds, everything changed in that. But then Gen 5 is a totally different strategy altogether. So it's like mainly what I do is all OEM engine management. Now, I mean, I do a lot of Hollies and stuff now, but the OEM engine management stuff is tricky, and it's all torque based. And if you're making more power, sometimes you have to lie to it, but sometimes you don't. But it's like, knowing what I know now, I just had to work around stuff, and it was really, really difficult. And a 14 model year is different than a 15, a 16 is different than a 15, and so on and so forth. So what you might have learned on a 14 doesn't necessarily apply, and what you learned on a 16 doesn't necessarily apply. But
Gotta love that, even though they didn't really change anything.
so I mean, it's
just
been a, oh man, I've
mess
got my
with the
butt
tuners.
kicked so many times. It's like right when you get a little bit of confidence, it's like just little jam in the nuts right there.
And then you go to the track and it does something weird, and then you're like,
yeah. So
transmission does something funky.
yeah, man, there's, here's something for example. So I had this is before I ran my 9, and I actually had a little showdown with Vengeance, and they had heads and cam and all that in their car. And this is at Ocala at the half-mile event. And so I was, I saw their car, heard it, and I was like, dang, man, that thing's impressive. My wife hears the car, and she's like, sorry, Jeremy, you don't have a chance. I'm like, please. I was like, where is that?
Just because it
support
had
right
no
there?
mufflers.
Yeah,
You didn't
I
have
was
a
like,
chance.
where's the support right there? I was like, come on. I was like, this car's gonna do it. It's gonna do all right. So.
Now it's your turn to make noise. Okay.
Yeah, we'll let Juan close that. Juan is closing the door, so. Thank you, Juan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So at the time, their car made like, I don't know, 760 or something crap, you know, and then mine was making, you know, probably like 640 or something like that. And they go and they make a pass, and the car goes like, I don't know, 158 or something like that, or maybe like 160 or something.
Yeah, that's pretty healthy mile an hour.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad for what it was.
It's pretty spicy.
And then you know, and then they make another pass, and it's like a couple mile an hour shorter or something like that. I'm like, maybe it's getting heat soaked or whatever. I make a pass, and it's like I go 150, like 9 something. And so we actually race, and I wish I was kind of doing video stuff at the time and whatever, because it would have been really, really cool. But the issue is what I learned, what I know now, is that I was thinking, I'm going to go race this. I'm going to put a little extra, you know, fuel blend in there. I'm going to throw a little extra E85 on there, and it's going to make more power and all that stuff. Well, knowing what I know now, I was actually taxing the fuel system too much.
Now it's starting to rain.
Starting to rain now, yeah.
This is good.
So
this is really live action.
So fuel pressure drops too much, and I'm having a missing problem up on the second quarter mile, and the car's like falling over. And it's like I'm actually ahead, and the car's like, and then, but we end up like trapping within a mile an hour of each other, and they got heads and cam, and I'm bolt-ons.
Yeah, you're just bolt-on. So,
and had I not done what I did, I would have fared a little better, but you know.
That actually leads me to a term, low-hanging fruit.
Ooh, I like that one.
I've heard you say this probably to me more times than I was going to say more times than I've heard my dad say he loves me, but that's not really saying that much.
I almost ejected that. Love you, Dad.
Yeah. Love you. But yeah, you've said that a lot throughout the years.
Okay.
I feel like you should elaborate on your low-hanging fruit.
What is the low-hanging fruit?
And how low do some of them hang? Because some hang a lot lower than others. And I know that's always been a lot of your strategy on these cars.
Yeah, that, and I mean that in general. I mean, whether it's like my brother-in-law had a BRZ, and I was like just looking at it, and I'm like, you know, if we cut a hole right here, that makes that a ram air, you know, and it didn't pick up any power on the dyno or anything like that, but at speed it does.
Yeah.
So that would be, the low-hanging fruit would be the cheap, easy, quick entry-level mods, in other words. So
like things like heat wrap and...
Yeah, I mean, the problem with these cars, these Z06s, is that they generate so much heat. So if you can address the heat, and I always tell anybody, I'm like, the heat is the demon of all of these late model supercharged cars. So if you can address that, if you start with cooler air, you're going to end with cooler air. So if you introduce a good cold air and you have it blocked off and you're not getting radiator heat, which is a really common thing. So a lot of cars will get radiator heat right onto the cold air. And people are like, hey, I put a less restrictive intake in there. Yeah, but you're getting radiator heat. So
220 degree air coming right off.
Right. So if you're, you know, if you can block that off, that's one thing. Just cheap, easy air mods, you know, we're doing stuff sometimes now where we're like, we've had problems with aftermarket thermostats. So if you, instead of doing that, we're taking a factory thermostat and drilling it out and getting the same result that won't stick ever, but it'll work.
Yeah, it'll actually let the water through. So
there's some low-hanging fruit.
Crazy enough, I took my CTSV roll racing the other day. I know. It was roll racing.
You know, you haven't brought it to me to tune it to. So.
But 3 back-to-back passes, the first 3, went 126 miles an hour every single pass.
Not bad.
With maybe 20 minutes of cooldown.
Okay.
Then on the 4th pass, it went 127. With the same start speed every time. I was like, is this thing just not heat soaking? It has really no cooling mods. But I was very impressed by the lack of heat soak on that thing, because every time I've driven it on Gandy with another car next to me, I feel the heat soak, and it's real.
Cooper, you just got to bring it into Fasterproms here, and we'll fix you up.
It's just like one of those things. It just like doesn't need anything. Like, it feels so great the way it is.
Man, it'd pick up We just got to get it right.
I love wagons.
It'll probably be
It's
like
the best car.
I love wagons.
it'll probably trap 3 miles an hour more at least if we can just clean it.
Will I notice that on my way to Starbucks?
Man, you support Starbucks?
No, but Bronzy does. What else am I going to do? Go to Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee that tastes like bleach?
Oh my god, that's real.
It's a fact. Don't sue me or not sponsor videos, Duncan. If you want to sponsor a video, you can.
I really love your coffee.
I won't say it tastes like bleach. So I don't know if they can see what's next to us, but what is that?
Yeah, you should show that. That's
I mean, some people are just listening, so maybe we can just describe it. It's a pewter Corella DeVille car.
yeah, kind of. It's supposed to be a 37 Ford.
They don't need to see it, I was going to say, but it's definitely crazy.
Yeah, it's
mean,
it's got a chop top. It's got fenders on it, so I thought it was going to be like a factory 5
I guess
car,
I'll show them it.
but
I'll point
it's
for the
not.
people watching.
It's definitely just a different animal altogether. I mean, so it's a supercharged 6.2, and it's on a C5 chassis, but it's all tubular.
Mhm.
So, but a chop top convertible, really cool looking car.
Yeah, that thing's definitely crazy. I've been sitting here looking at it, and I was like, man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, so
to
no
go for
windows, no
pewter.
door handles, so it's definitely a fair weather car.
Not good for summertime in Florida.
Yeah.
So
It's
the
got
other
suicide
question,
doors, too, which is cool.
let's talk serious note.
Talk serious note.
Where have you been for 10 months?
Oh yeah, oof, man.
10 months.
Oof.
I looked.
Well, I've been here working.
There's still a shop here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this inevitably is going to lead to our street tacos. Okay. Inevitably.
Oh.
There is a thread.
There's a
There's a thread.
end goal of street tacos in my life.
Yeah.
here.
So we are having street tacos. You're eating my street tacos. which
Just so you
came-
know, my bathroom is 45 minutes away, if that's important. Because, like, when I'm on my way home, like, you don't
Yeah.
worry about that kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
tacos.
I'll put an extra spice in there for you, bud.
Yeah, you got to be gentle on me. But don't dodge this question.
Okay. So
10 months, Jeremy. 10 months. And you've
All right.
had a lot of cool cars
Well,
in here.
look.
You've broken the Z, what, 4 times?
Yeah. Well, look, man. All I can tell you is there's going to be some things that I'm going to touch on, and then stuff that we'll see how that goes.
You can touch on
Okay,
whatever
look,
you'd want.
There's been so look, YouTube was kind of screwing with me, and I got multiple different things like over time. First they kicked off my son's channel, and I get basically accused of child endangerment for being a professional driver in a professional course with safety. So screw you, YouTube.
Tell him he was just a little person.
Yeah.
Try that angle.
Yeah, didn't hear that. But with their ever-changing, so YouTube always has an ever-changing policy, of which for somebody who wears their, I love my country. I don't really think YouTube does. I just,
Depends on what country.
yeah. So
This will also be on
I
Spotify.
fell out of love
so-
with YouTube, and YouTube started screwing with me, and then there's just multiple different things that happened. Had a falling out on a couple different relationships, and it just led me to be like, I would be a fool to try and make a living with a company that has an ever-changing company policy, and that's about as politically correct as I could put it. But yeah, I mean, I've been blessed with great people, Juan and Laz, and my wife. We have good business. We treat people right, and that's where I came from. I don't need YouTube to live. I got such a bad taste in my mouth with it. So, I love all the people that I met. I love the fans. It's been awesome, but I just couldn't do that as a living anymore. And I had a calling in my life not to do that, go to a different direction. And yeah, I mean, I have a better family life as a result. Like, YouTube is tough. It is a beast to feed. If you're not putting at least 3 videos out, and then, I could put a video out, and then someone else could put a video out within a couple hours, and my video does poop.
Yeah.
Now, one thing, and I want to say this because,
It's definitely a draining on your mental health
yeah.
in a
So,
lot of ways. When you see that 10 out of 10, it hurts a little.
yeah. I mean, one thing, as anybody else who does any sort of other work, if you do, and this is something that for people that don't do YouTube, this is why I say it like this. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber and all that stuff and whatever, and it's like I've seen behind the curtain. I'm not in love with what I saw, and there's genuine people and then there's not. But the fact of the matter is, for anybody else who does any other kind of work, if you do a really good job, you expect to be rewarded with adequate pay for what you're doing. And you could do that. You could do the best work you ever did and put something together and you let it go and it flops and it is no fault of yours. It is fantastic work, but because of the time frame or because somebody else posted or because of just the algorithm behind YouTube and they don't
time
like
of day,
you,
something weird, anything could.
I'm telling you, there's all sorts of things behind the scenes of what pushes up videos and brings them down, and I just experienced it enough. I was like, I'd be a fool to continue to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go back to what I do, and it's like I'll just treat people right and do work and
So you kind of had a lot of eggs in that basket,
yes.
and you kind of realized that
Speaking of eggs,
probably wasn't
so
the
one
best
of the
move.
things that I've been doing the last 10 months is I've like kind of
You have also become a chicken farmer,
yeah,
like
become
me.
like kind of like a little farmer in a way. I mean, sort of, like not really, but
You have like
a real farmer would be
150
like,
plants on your property, like legal fruit plants.
yeah. But no, I mean, I've gotten into that, and I've got chickens, I've got all sorts of stuff that I wanted to learn how to grow. I've been spending more time with my kids and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I was wondering, have your golden retrievers produced anything of value yet?
no,
Yeah,
they
mine haven't either, and I
yet
keep
to retrieve any gold. That's
checking on them.
really false advertising.
It's really weird. Like I check on them every day. I'm like, hey, you guys produce anything?
Yeah.
My chickens haven't either yet.
Chickens haven't?
No.
No eggs?
I don't know if they're broken.
Well, I mean, the street tacos that we have are chicken eggs, so that was the common thread here. So they got eggs, and I got herbs from my
on a
garden
street
that
taco?
I took. Yeah. So it's actually more
A
of a
breakfast
breakfast
street taco?
Yeah, it's more of like a breakfast street taco. It is good. So the
They
only-
sound good, but I was just surprised to hear eggs and a street taco in
Yeah,
one.
so we got like stuff that I grew. Like I just pulled some herbs this morning, like some chives and sage and some green onions and some Cuban oregano. That is a fire spice right there. Chopped it all
Well,
up, threw some butter.
Definitely interested in that. Do
Chicken
you
eggs.
have any plans to get back to YouTube?
I don't know. I've been doing some Instagram stuff, and again, I don't
Maybe
really
go to
like-
Rumble?
Dude,
Maybe something along those lines. Hop
Yeah.
on Twitter, post some stuff. One of
Well-
those companies that may not,
yeah,
that may fit your values a little better, because
yeah,
I definitely respect sticking to your values a lot. If something, if it's kind of not selling out in a way.
yeah. I refuse to do that. I just was like, I love the people that were really into what I was doing and all that.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's like, look, I'm a red-blooded Christian American, and it's like that's a hard thing to come by. Whereas the rest of the world is kind of changing, and I think YouTube really glorifies people behaving badly, and the entertainment industry in general does. And people want to see people behaving badly, and I just I don't want to be that. I want to be there's so much you watch TV, you watch the news, and it's like this is all bad stuff. It's like there's good stuff out there, but why are we concentrating on the bad?
Yeah, it definitely gets clicks.
Yeah,
It's a sad world, because like an accomplishment won't get as many clicks as your car on fire.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Like
true.
you go light your car on fire right now, and it's gonna do way better than if you just said you won a race.
Yeah.
I know from experience. I've done both, and I could tell you.
Those fireballs do sell.
And lighting your car on fire if you're trying to grow a YouTube channel. It's a good move, I'll tell you what.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. So, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really come out and said anything on YouTube, and I don't, I have a bunch of videos that I even have some videos that are like 98% edited, and I'm doing other stuff. There's so many other things that I'm doing in my life that I've actually found, and I don't really want to get into them on this podcast or anything like that.
I mean,
but
you're welcome to if you'd want to.
Yeah.
But you obviously can only go. You only have to go as deep as you'd want to.
Yeah.
Because like your opinions
Yeah.
You know, I'm just the guy interviewing and talking to you.
Yeah.
Your opinions are your own. And,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could share them if I wanted to. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying
Right.
trying to say. Just because I could sit down with any person.
Yeah.
And just because I'm sitting down with them doesn't mean that everything that they say I'm wholeheartedly agreeing with. I just want to sit down with people.
Yeah. No, I get it, man.
Because sometimes some people say some crazy things in these interviews I've heard. We can talk about cars, or it can get crazy. Believe me.
Well, I don't know. Like, I've kind of gotten into a few things that have to do with, like, you know, they're major life-changing things, and I was like, I decided to get into to just learning law and learning about the Constitution and things. And once you kind of dive into stuff like that, you start to realize how much fraud and how much lies there are out there. And it's just, you know, I think innately we all are kind of like, hey, we weren't really designed to live this way. And then we realize all the rules, statutes, ordinances, mandates, all this other crap. So I was just like, hey, I found some truth, and I'm going to go pursue that. And, you know, I'll leave it at that. We'll talk about something
Gotta
else.
respect it.
Yeah,
you gotta respect it. Well, we could talk about one of your cars. How about the Miata? It looks
the Miata.
really nice.
It's for sale. You know, I haven't actually, like, it's one of those things that's like.
So if you guys are just listening, it's a crisp Z06 C5 Z06 blue Miata that has a LS3 in it. Very well built.
Yeah.
For sale for $160,000.
Wow.
Jeremy will cut you a deal. $159,000.
I mean, I was thinking about 110 less than that, but yeah, you know.
That's a good deal then. I mean, I just made them like, wow, and then you hit them with that deal. That's the salesman pitch.
All right, well,
now they're like, oh, that's so affordable.
if I could get 50 grand for it, I'd be pretty happy for it. You know, but it's a fantastic car. Ooh, excuse me.
It has everything.
Let me talk about it real quick here. So
Yeah.
it's that's an absolutely great car. So yeah, like Cooper said, 6.2. It's got forged internals. It's pretty much the best I could put something together a few years ago, and have a multi-purpose car. You know, I had I had tuned probably a dozen of them before I started to build that one, and all of them had major flaws. I was like, well, the exhaust is either terrible on this one, it's constipated, or they're getting too hot induction, or the car makes good power, but all it does is spin, and it doesn't have a tire. And so I gleaned a lot of good information from those builds, and I was just like, I'm going to do it with a 308 gear ratio, and I'm going to put 275s on it so that it'll plant the tire. And I did the math, and I was like, why does a C6 Z06 make that much power and yet plant the tire so well? Better than a C5 or all these other cars and any other car that's making, you know, almost 600 wheel. How does it plant the tire and work? Well, it's a gear ratio. And so first gear in that car is almost 60 miles an hour, and then second gear is almost 100 miles an hour, third gear is almost 130, and fourth gear is almost 160. So it's like it's spread so big, so long.
Yeah.
It's just it just works for what that car is. But it makes like 530 wheel NA. It's 2,500 pounds. It's just an awesome car, and it's got an oil cooler. I mean, it's just got a lot of things, and you know,
Ready to go.
yeah.
Like everything is including air condition, all the brakes.
Yeah, like ready to go to Sebring and beat the crap out of it type of
Can't
car.
forget a fresh
Might need
paint
a little
job.
brake tweakage there, but I mean it's got good paint, all that's done. I mean it's got a cage. Oh, I forgot. On nitrous it makes 700 wheels, so it's like
It's pretty
absolutely rips. I actually did do a video. I did some other videos with the track with it, but I mean it went 1050s NA. You know, with me not killing it out of the whole. You know, it should run a low 10, but I wasn't like. I had already broke 2 axles at that point, so I was like,
Yeah.
this is too far, and then this is not enough, and then let's go somewhere in between there for launching it on the, you know, and that's kind of where it was. But great car.
Yeah.
I don't really need it or drive it. This thing right here too. I mean, this thing's terrifying.
Nobody needs that.
Yeah, no. I mean, somebody needs this in their life. Somebody who really wants to have their own personal like roller coaster death trap.
You know, people think I rolled it.
You know,
I've actually
why
seen
don't-
people.
Is it time to like just?
I
come-
mean, I don't care. It
Put
doesn't
that
bother
as
me.
the
I
first
wasn't even
time,
there.
'cause
People think I rolled it.
well, it wasn't Cooper.
I wasn't even
okay?
there.
Just like last time.
Yeah.
Last didn't roll it either.
Last didn't roll it either. Yeah.
But it wasn't me, and it wasn't you.
It
um,
was in it,
he's a tall guy that rolled it.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares, honestly,
Yeah. Well,
because it's not like anything happened.
no. It was just like whatever. I don't know.
And it wasn't Garrett that rolled it either.
Yeah.
But it happened with like no video, really, which was
Yeah. Well, there
the
was
real
video,
bummer.
but I had to delete. Oh man. Yeah. That was a major change in the trajectory of Fasterproms YouTube right there.
this thing getting rolled. Well, you hit the
Yeah.
tree with it too.
Oh really? Yeah.
Didn't you hit the tree at the
Oh
drag
yeah.
strip
No, I
with it?
did. I did. But it
Yeah.
didn't leave that kind of mark though.
I mean, you definitely, hitting the tree was something. Didn't you, I recall you also ended up in the ditch on Gator Alley with a car. Didn't you tuning a car?
Oh.
I remember you telling me that once,
Yeah,
and I
we
was
got-
like, dang, you're wild, man.
We got some stories. I wasn't driving that. Okay, so if anybody's ever tuned with me, it's like I always drive. There's very, very few exceptions. Very few exceptions. It's like there was something recently. So like 95 times out of 100, I'm the one that drives. If there's a weird car that somebody's already used to, like, hey, I already made 1,000 wheel with this, blah blah blah, then I'd be like, okay, we didn't pick up necessarily that much. But there's certain things that lend to wrecking a car, and the common thread is big power gain and automatics. So I've been in multiple automatics that we've made major power gains on. So like this one, which is this story here, it's like 2014 or 13 or something like that, and got a 2013 CTSV on the dyno. It's making like, we picked up 100 wheel horsepower on the dyno, okay? Changed the shift points, did all this other stuff, and it's got this guy, and then he's got a son who's probably like 12 or 13 years old. And so I'm like, all right, well, it's time
Sedan?
for... Yeah, sedan.
Okay, so he wasn't like in a coupe.
Yeah, so yeah, that would be way worse. And this is right near State Road 84. I'm sorry, way south. This is in Davie, Florida. And some of these canals that they have there, some of them that you look over and they, you look down and you think, oh, that's 3-4 foot deep. Well, some of them are over 100 foot deep because they're Swift Mud, which is Southwest Florida Management District, which when a hurricane comes and they have an influx of water, they open up the canals to spread about the water. So, this one wasn't that, but this was a little ditch that you wouldn't have thought is over 6 feet deep. You would look at it and be like, oh, that's probably 2 feet deep. Well, turns out homeboy's driving the car, and we're ripping it up and down the road, and he gets in it and it just spins, and we're going, the wheel speed's up well over 100 or something, and then the actual speed was something like 60, and he loses control. We go into the ditch, down 6 feet into the ditch, and then we're in the water. And, I'm like, oh my God, a freaking OnStar comes on, and then the airbags deploy and all that. And they're like, oh, we've just been in an accident. And he's like, hey, are you okay? And he's like, oh yeah, we're trying to get out of the car. And the car's
Can I call you
like,
back?
the car's like, and I didn't know because the airbag is all across the window. So that window airbag deployed, and, the guy's bigger than me. He's probably like, I don't know, 6'2" or something like that, and maybe like 225 or something like that. But he's a little bigger than me, and he's like, boom, boom, trying to knock the door open because, normally it's
on the
electronic and it opens, and it wasn't opening, and so he's bashing it open, and the moment he opens it, all the water comes in, and we go down, and I get my laptop, and I'm like throwing it over on top, and I'm like getting out because, again, I didn't know that the window was there. I was like, oh my God, this is pretty wild. But then the car just goes down. I barely get my laptop out and over it. I still have that laptop, and it's got this brown permanent mud water stain on there. I had my phone in my lap.
Sure, the mud water.
Yeah.
Stain.
It reminds me of Tommy Boy. He's like, got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants. We didn't have any pudding. But no, so
So
that
you're
water
struggling
was,
at this point for your life.
yeah. And I get it out over the car, and then the moment I do that, I stand up on the door sill right there. The car goes down. I barely get it out of the water, and somebody helps yank me out of the side. And I swear, I don't even know who that person was, or I don't even. That was like a blur, but somebody helped me out of the water, and it wasn't either one of them. But the kid gets out before I get out. The dad gets out, just like a couple seconds before I do, because when he opened it, everything went down. But yeah, my phone was completely ruined, and I have 2 or 3 customers waiting at the dyno. This is like 8:30 at night. I had cars I had to tune. And we hear the cops come in, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do, and he's like, I'm gonna stay here. I'm like, dude, I got to get back to the dyno. So I like haul ass with my with my laptop and my HP tuners, and I'm like got my soaked freaking useless phone, and I'm like hauling back like a half mile. I'm like, I roll up and I'm like, hey man, you guys aren't gonna believe what just happened. That CTSV, it's underwater right now, And oh, dude, yeah.
I don't think I would have you tune my car after that. If I was that next guy in line, I'd be like, dude, I'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that helped me
Who's
out.
next?
The guy that helped me out was like the nicest guy ever, and actually he's one of the guys that told me one of the stories about the Swift mud. So the canals. He's actually a fireman, but he does rescue and he does scuba. So he was telling us about, hey, there was a wreck, and he's like, I went down 30 feet, didn't see the car. I went down 40, 50 feet, didn't see the car. He's like, I went down 60, 70 feet, still didn't see anything. He's like, I went down 90 to 100 feet, and I saw a little glimmer of the bumper, and he's like, I found the car. He's like, yep, the guy was still in the car. I was like, oh God, dude. But those are sometimes over 100 feet deep, and you just wouldn't think it. So they go all the way across the state, and they go up and down and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thing, but
So
it's not just a small body of water.
when they tell you about quicksand in middle school, that's the one time it actually comes into play in life.
Yeah, something like that.
People always make the jokes like, oh, I thought quicksand would be a bigger problem in my life. It actually was. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, anytime you're in South Florida, I think things usually get a little crazy that direction.
Yeah.
Try to stay this side of Florida. It's like a different state.
That's not the only time I've been down there, and actually I've been down there 2 other times with somebody with an automatic with extra power that lost control of the car. One time we did go into a ditch. The other time we did a 270-degree turn on a highway, a major highway.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank God.
Well, the CTSVs, like I've had mine do it at the drag strip where the second it loses traction, it upshifts so quickly that it just wheel speeds like crazy. Like you spin for 20 feet in like my CTSV, and it'll be 3 gears higher by the time you even like lift your foot off, because it's just that quick. Like a stick shift car, at least you can kind of just like your personal slowness can kind of save you, because you're not just going to grab the next gear when you're spinning. Maybe Juan would, because he's a drifter. not in the nomad style of way. Like, slides his car. We'll see what else I have here written down. I probably had something written like, hey, talk to Jeremy about this. If it says communism here, I'm just leaving. Let's see. Do you have any other cool stories for the class that you would like to talk about? I remember you telling me that you were wrapping your headers on your car the day you got married. You had fiberglass.
What was it? It was the day that I proposed. The day that I proposed to my wife. Yeah, that's a weird one that you remember, but yeah, that's funny. I don't know how I would have. Why would we have shared that? Why would
we spent a lot of long nights together. I don't know why you're talking about your wife with me, but
yeah. God, that's man. If anybody's ever wrapped anything in fiberglass, that is just
recommend
like,
it.
Yeah, that's a exercise in misery.
Not
right
worth
there.
it.
Yeah,
just get them coated.
Man.
That's like the worst thing. Like your arms are just like all red.
Yeah.
I actually wrote down, I wanted to talk to you about why GM gave, like, say, a 2007 Tahoe flex fuel, but then didn't do the same for their performance cars.
I have the same
How much
question.
of a disservice is that?
I don't know. GM's done a lot of bonehead things, and it's like I've kind of fallen out of love with GM too. They have a great performance era, But after 2020, I'm just a little.
But like they had flex fuel, they had
Okay,
that already.
to your point, I've not seen. There isn't anything that I can think of, and I don't even think Ford does it either. Ford doesn't have a flex
Performance
fuel
cars
on a
having-
performance.
I think their Mustangs might now.
Are you sure?
Maybe. I'm not.
I don't know. I don't think.
It just
That's
doesn't
the
make much
weirdest thing.
sense that your '05 Tahoe has it, but your '05 Corvette doesn't.
Yeah.
Like-
I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it. It's like, okay, you've got your garbage 93 diet, and then you've got your freaking 107 octane E85 diet. I mean, hell yeah, let's make some power.
And they were pushing that for a long time. Like
Yeah.
the government was pushing corn for
yeah,
a long time.
as green as all this nonsense and all that stuff. And yeah, you can quote me on that. For as much as they want to push that agenda, I don't know why they wouldn't do that, you know? And I mean, but it to me, it's pretty weird in the fact that, yeah, the cars will make more power. Granted, the economy isn't going to be as good, but the price point was about a wash. So
But to have the option,
I don't know
would've
why
been nice.
GM hasn't done that and come out and been like, especially with their supercharged stuff. They'll make a race tune for like a C7 Z06 that you can go to the dealership and run on the road course, but they won't offer a
It doesn't
E85
have
tune.
a sensor this big in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Why GM?
It doesn't
Why?
make much sense to me, and I was wondering if there
Yeah.
was some logical answer, but I guess bureaucratic stuff doesn't get logic involved. Do you worry that you have a database on you of cars that you've messed with, and the EPA might one day be like, that Jeremy Formato
Oh,
guy,
man. Well, here you go. You open the Pandora's
open up a
box.
laptop and look at it and be like, yep, he's next on our list? Because I know people that have had their shops rated.
Do you really want me to answer this question?
I just am wondering if you are worried that you have yourself, that you have the tuning you've done in a well-known database.
used to worry about
We're
that.
far along in the podcast now, so
Okay.
the
well,
questions can get a little crazier
all right,
without
well,
you worrying about the normal people. May have
First
heard
of
them.
all, the EPA has doesn't have a leg to stand on. The West Virginia versus EPA, the EPA just got
Yeah.
toothless. So screw the EPA and most three-letter agencies because they're trying to enforce laws that are not even
You're gonna
actually
say you don't like the
legislation.
IRS? Wow.
So, but I mean, here's the thing though, is that we're busy with our everyday, day-to-day stuff. So a lot of these three-letter agencies are actually putting out alleged laws that are actually policy, and they're making it law, which is illegal.
Yeah.
That didn't pass the legislative
Yeah, they're
branch.
circumventing.
Yeah, I mean
how a
it's
bill becomes a
nonsense.
law.
I mean, it's like we weren't meant to live under all of these laws. So it's like I've actually done stuff in my life where I am no longer, it's not a threat to me. I did
But-
have that worry, and I was like, oh, but now that I know what I know, I'm like,
But you don't think that maybe like a company you've worked with a lot, for say, that has this information may be inclined to hand over that information? I'm not saying any specific company, because there's probably a lot out there that have information on people that are deleting things on cars,
yeah.
turning off
Well-
a cat, turning off an emissions thing, or something along those lines, that somebody out there,
Has some sort of log of it.
yeah, and
Okay.
may
Well-
be inclined to turn it over.
Yeah, I mean, they can, but it's like I am not.
You're no longer worried about that threat.
Well, I'm not. I'm actually out of that jurisdiction.
But were you, okay, so 3 months ago,
3 months ago.
a year ago,
Okay.
were you worried
Yes.
that potential threat may
Yeah.
be looming, and there may be somebody in a van across the street with a camera taking photos?
Yeah.
of
and I
cars
mean,
coming off the
again,
dyno
that's
and-
terrible because it's like that's not the way we're meant to live. It's terrible. And I mean, this whole Brent and I have a really
example.
common. Like I actually called Brent. I freaking love that guy. I called him, when he was going through all this other stuff. I'm like, dude, you're going to come out on top of this ahead of. It's like I prayed with Brett. I mean, I've cried with Brett. I mean, he's Brent. I mean, he's an awesome, awesome dude, and I want to be there. But, and I mean, I've got information to share with him that is like, you don't got to worry about none of that stuff anymore. But we're not meant to live this way. But really, the fact of the matter is that the EPA is like a legalized mafia. I mean, they're a collector, and they're trying to, hand you something that, it's a presentment. It's not. You don't have to accept this. You don't have to consent
Like
to that.
a
And
made-up bill in a way.
yeah, but I
like
mean,
you owe us money
so
for things you did.
So much of our day-to-day life is exactly that. There's rules, statutes, ordinances, mandates that are all trying to rob you.
Well, and some of these fines that I see are like guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah,
Like they're handing you a fine for $50,000, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
am I guilty already?
Yeah, no.
It's a very crazy thing to go down, and we could definitely have a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
And we probably won't get that deep, but we've been going for long enough. So, where can people find you to follow you? Fasterproms on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on
Instagram,
Instagram, and
anything else?
I don't post that much. I mean, it's like I will share some stuff here and there, and I don't know. I do miss the people. The fans are great. It's like sometimes if you're having a bad day and you look at that, you brought somebody else's day up, and they're like, man, that really made my day or whatever, and they, it's it's a reciprocal. They're gonna. It's awesome. It really is. It's really, really encouraging, and so on and so forth. But yep. Hold on a second.
Hey man, what's up?
Hey, we're in the middle of filming. Sorry, 1 second, man.
Yeah.
1
Hold on a
second.
second here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they can find you on.
Yeah, just on Instagram. I mean, heck, if you guys like what I've done, go back to the old Fasterproms videos, look at them, comment, whatever. I mean, like.
Comment, tell them to start
Yeah.
filming again, posting. Post Laz's Jeep.
Yeah, I do have some obligations, and just I had sponsor obligations and stuff, and just after getting crapped on with a bunch of different things, it's like I feel like I dropped the ball on some stuff, and that's not fun. But nonetheless, I mean, the world changed, YouTube changed, policy changed, all that stuff. So it's like we had the best time. I mean, I think I had some of the best times with you guys, and I mean, dude, we had a great time here.
Yeah,
and
it was a good run.
The door closed on that, and you move on to bigger and better things, though. So it's like, I mean, I'm not, it's good to reminisce about it, but I'm not terribly sad about it. It's like, so
It is what it is. Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to do this again. Very fun.
Yeah,
We'll
man.
do some more podcasts. Maybe we'll pull up some more stories of some of the terrible,
Yeah, we've got
terrible,
a bunch.
goofy things we've done. But we've been going for long enough for this episode, I think.
Okay.
But we'll do another one. Guys, thank you for watching. Jeremy,
Yes. And Juan,
Juan.
yeah.
Yes.
It was fun. We'll see you guys next time.